All right. Welcome back to Whiskey and Wolves, everyone. I am Christopher Lamy, owner of Canine Coaching with Chris. Today with me, as always, is my friend, Evan Stewart of K-Pro Canine.
Thanks, brother.
We have a very cool, a little more somber show today for you. Today, we're going to be discussing what it's like, what it happens, and all the things surrounding losing a dog in the family. Evan and his family lost one of their beloved animals this week, and it kind of spurred this conversation on. And we both professionally get a ton of calls with individuals and clients that
all the time,
either have lost an animal or are on the verge of losing an animal. And do I get another one? And all of these questions.
What do I do? Yeah.
And this is, I mean, these are family members, right?
Absolutely.
So losing this member of your family, it's a weird grief process. And we're going to kind of walk through that. And this whole episode is going to be a bit of a buddy check. Yeah. And so before I get into our actual buddy check, I do want to notice, maybe you guys have noticed, especially if you're watching, we're going to be drinking Johnny Walker Blue Label today. We've drank this before. This is a celebratory bottle that Evan actually got me for Christmas.
Yeah.
This year. And we decided to use this on special occasions. And today is one of those occasions. Not only are we commemorating and enjoying the memory of Siege, but this may be the final episode of our season.
Yeah, it may be right as a good cap, right? So
we're gonna enjoy.
We've done it for a year, bro.
That's pretty awesome. This is my favorite thing to do. So we're gonna be enjoying some beautiful Johnny Walker. We're not gonna dive too much into the whiskey aspect today. But let's dive straight into what this episode is about in a buddy check and tell me where you're at, man.
Oh, dude, it sucks actually. You know what I mean? Like, and take it for what it is. It should, right? Like, you know, in this particular instance, right? Like my old bulldog, man, she's fantastic. And I'm sure that we'll find some photos, you know, to provide our post team to make sure that they make it into this episode so that everybody can, you know, kind of see Siege. Funny enough, one of the last pictures of Siege with somebody was actually right there in that chair, sitting in your, like standing in your lap.
That makes me very happy. On, right? I really love that dog.
Yeah, dude, she's fun. She was a great dog, man. Just absolutely phenomenal dog. And I can't say enough good things about her. She was a Pacific bulldog, which is kind of a little offshoot of like the old English bulldogs that some people may be familiar with, kind of like an English bulldog, but not quite. A little bit more athletic. Like that dog used to do bite work and all that stuff, right?
I remember seeing her hanging on the spring pole
and everything.
Out there,
even at like almost 10 years old, she was still in it. You know what I mean? So, but we'll get into why later. But you know, like legitimately, man, like you know, whenever you lose somebody that's been with you for 10 years, you know what I mean? And a lot of people go through this. A lot of people ask me all the time, you know, like, hey, you know, what am I supposed to do with this, that, or the next thing whenever it goes with a dog, right? And you're like, well, you know, like they're a big part of our lives, you know. Siege was a big part of my company. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Siege is a big part of all the reasons that I do lots and lots of the things that I do with dogs. And so it's a big loss, right? You know, spent the last few years, you know, sleeping in a kid's bed at night and, you know, like being a full, you know, member of the daily grind. Right. And so, it's funny, man. Like one of the things we even talked about that sucks, right? Is that, you know, like I can hardly look at my couch, you know, without seeing her lay on it. You know what I mean? Her spot is well worn, you know what I mean? And has been, I mean, you know, we got the couch and the dog about the same time, you know what I mean? So I got this big old leather couch that, you know, like we've loved for a long time. And Heather and I have talked about, man, it's probably time to get a new one. You know what I mean? Of course the furniture industry these days is like 3 months out on everything still. I'm like, that COVID stuff did you guys good, didn't it? You know what I mean? But like, legitimately, dude, like, you know, it's one of those deals where it's like, yeah, I think it's going to be time to do something different down the road. And so like dealing with some of that grief has been a little bit rough. On top of some of the other life events that have transpired over the last little while, you know, like we've had some family illness come to surface and some other stuff like, you know, going on. You know, heck, you know, like some of the anxiety's gotten me to the place where like, you know, I've been having some weird heart palpitations, some other stuff, had to go to the doctor myself. Right. So like some of this stuff, man, and not all that of course is connected right to Siege. I mean, you know, it's a confluence of events. They say these things come in threes, right?
When it rains, it pours.
Yeah, when it rains, it pours. Right. And so like the last month has kind of been like, you know, it's been kind of gross for me. And it's not, I mean, I'm still grateful. I'm still thankful. Because man, do I have, some really, really awesome friends and support system.
Yes, you do.
That come alongside me, man. And hold on. Mm-hmm. And good whiskey. The whiskey helps. But and I've got a wonderful wife, and my son's a fantastic kid, and he's, there's silver linings on everything, right? Like, so, this year, this dude gets to go to 9th grade for the first time, so we did freshman orientation last night. That's awesome. That kind of stuff, like, it doesn't go away. Right. So, one of the things I tell people about dealing with some of this grief is like, don't forget to live life in a way that even your dog would have wanted you to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, today is in some ways, as we can commemorate that dog and we do some other things. It's a little bit of a celebration, even of life.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of where I've been, man, in a buddy check. I'm fine overall. Right. But man, have I been, I've been walking through it a little bit stressed out lately, a little bit, trying to figure out, what those next steps are. How you been, brother?
Well, first of all, let me say I'm sorry.
You didn't have to, man. I knew it already.
I know we've talked about it off air, but I want to throw it out there before we get started. Sure. Not seem insensitive about everything you're going through. Yeah. Sometimes it's rough, and it has been rough. You can't have sweet without the sour. That doesn't make the sour any sweeter.
No.
One of the things that I think is interesting about like this topic and this experience is like, I tend to tell people, like, use your dog as an excuse to live a better life. Yeah. Right. Be more intentful, be more mindful with your dog and for your dog. And then when you put yourself into this situation, right, then you have to do something to get your mind off of that thing that you were using. Right. And it can be a really challenging time. Like you said, that is a partner, that is a friend, that is a companion, that is a family member. It's somebody that's always there, just smiling at you and staring at you. It's tough. It is tough. Which is why this topic is so important. Now, to me, I'm going to go a little lighter. I've got my own downsides, but I did that last time. Yesterday was my birthday. It was one of my favorite birthdays. Turned 41. Thank you very much.
About that. Yeah.
And went on a cruise for my daughter's 16th birthday. Mm-hmm. Me, both my daughters, my ex-wife and her boyfriend. We all went on a Margaritaville cruise. It was not my thing, but it was good family time. I understand why people like cruises. I get it.
You're like, I'm sitting on the porch.
I will not be on another one.
Yeah.
I vacation in the woods, not on a boat filled with people.
Go, dude.
That being said, my daughters and I had a blast. They already want me to buy cruise tickets for Christmas. I said, yes, absolutely. As long as you don't expect me to be there.
Yeah, I'll send it. Yeah, send it.
So yeah, I've had, I'm doing good.
Good.
Yeah.
Man.
Doing good.
We had lunch a couple days ago, man. And man, you just seem lighter. You know what I mean?
There were some things that I had to get over, had to get cleared of. And I have, life is like that sometimes. And I cleared out and I'm in a better place now. And partially thanks to you.
Oh, right? I love your fan. Man, I love you. Dude, I'm telling you, you're one of the best friends I've had, man. Thank you so much for being my friend.
Thank you. You too, brother.
Man, absolutely.
So yeah, that's where I'm at.
No, that's awesome, dude.
Heather,
where you at there, Sailor?
Well, also with, the loss of Siege, it's been
kind of rough.
Part of it's been kind of rough. Yeah. But again, she was 10 years old. She was a bulldog. It was kind of whenever a person who's really elderly dies, yes, you feel the loss, but also there's this idea of she's not suffering. And, it was eventually going to be time, which I recognize can sound callous, and I absolutely miss her. And I loved her to death, but she lived a really good life and had the best that we could give her. And Gabe's, our son's been really big on that whole idea of, celebrating her life and what she gave us.
Yeah.
More than just being sad that she's gone. So yes, I'm sad that she's gone, but you know what? She did have a good life.
Man, I'll tell you this, man, you're dead on it. One of the things I think about all the time, dude. No, I'll take it for what it is, right? You're going to talk about Gabe?
No, I was going to say, what do you expect other than something poetic from the poet? That was right? Perfect. Yeah.
But what I picked up on just then is my kid lately has just been in this place of gratitude for her.
That's awesome.
Right.
That's
and
amazing.
I'm like, dude, if the only thing that I gave you as a father is ability to process your emotions like a man, like winning happens, you know what I mean? So like, no, I'm really, really excited. Kind of, you know, like take it for what it is. Was it a massive loss? Massive loss, man. Friend, partner, you know, in some ways confidant our dogs become, right? But you know, like silver linings happen, right? You know? So let's get into this today.
Yeah.
Man.
So we have a little bit of a little looser of a structure today. We're just going to kind of wing it. What are some of the things outside of your personal dog, right? Talking as a dog professional and as a dog training professional, what are some of the things that as a professional you tell these people when they call you and say, hey, my dog is on the way out, right? I'm thinking about getting a new dog. We get calls like that all the time.
Wild stuff.
Is it a good idea to get a puppy when I know my older dog only has a year left? Is it gonna hinder that older dog's quality of life? Do I get one right away? What are some of these questions? What are some of the answers?
That's a great question, right? So like if you're kind of committed, and I'll break this down into a couple of different scenarios, right? So, you know, to kind of answer that question, I'm sure you'll throw in along the way, right? But like for me, you know, like I always think about like if I'm committed to being a multi-dog household, 2 or more, right? If I'm committed to being kind of a multi-dog household, then like the most advantageous way to do that in my mind is to kind of leapfrog, right? Mm-hmm. So like have a dog, let them get to 4 or 5 years old, get your next dog. You know what I mean? So
let that older dog kind of teach them the rules of the road. Yeah.
Let them teach them that, you know, because social learning happens in dogs, which is great. Right. And we want to leverage that as often as we can, especially in dog training, right? Absolutely. Like if I've got a dog that knows what they're doing, like, do you know how many times, like even in canine work, right? Like we want to start a bite on a dog, right? We bring those puppies out and let them watch an experienced dog do the things, you know what I mean? So that they can get that experience and see what's happening and see the dynamic and learn socially. Right. Same kind of thing happens in our homes with dogs, right? Is where like dogs get a chance to learn socially from the dog who's got it licked, right? Funny enough, man, I'm kind of watching this in my house right now because like I'm integrating one of my working dogs like into full house life now that Siege has passed, right? And one of my older working dog, right, is kind of showing her the ropes. Like, hey, we don't go up the stairs. Like, dude, we don't get on the couch unless we're asked. Okay. Like, you know, all the things that's
like, some of my favorite stuff to watch is watching dogs teach other dogs.
Right.
Like
and the patience.
I absolutely love it.
The patience. Right. So like, you know, like Phantom, my older dog, right, is so patient with his little sister Ghost, who's like pulling on his scruff and doing all kind of stuff. And you want an example of a no change response. Watch that dog just sit there and get drug around like a dad at Disney World. You know what I mean? Like it's brilliant in its own right, but that social learning's occurring. Right. So like, I like to leapfrog dogs whenever I get a chance. Right. So like, I'll probably have a third dog again before these guys are passed, right? Like, you know, I've got a working dog club and we do stuff and I need a working dog prospect. And these guys are getting to the place where it's like, yeah, it's getting time to retire you guys almost entirely out of some of that work and just live that pet life with me. And I really want that for them. And so like, I typically say, hey, you know, I want to try to stagger dogs, you know, like, you know, at least 2 to 3 years apart. And that means like, if you're looking to get a puppy toward the end of a dog's life, like allow that dog the ability to age gracefully as well. And don't get a puppy like in the last year of their life.
I agree. 100%.
Or the last 2 years of their life, even, right? Give them 3 to 4 years where you can look down the road and go, I can see that like you're 9 years old. Right. And like, you know, let me make sure that and your breed longevity might be to, 14, right? If you're like a German Shepherd or something like that. Right. And so like, let me give you some time with this other dog, you know what I mean? To like really bring them along. Because the thing that I want to avoid, right, to your point, is diminishing the quality of life for an old dog.
Yes.
Right. Old dogs sometimes get really, really, really upset with puppies and the integration doesn't go well, especially if they've been an only dog. Right. So like, this is one of those caveats that I think is really important to ping on. And you tell me what you think about this too. I think it'll be interesting, but like a lot of the problems that I have with clients calling me and talking about integrating dogs happens to be like a really old dog and a puppy.
Yes.
Like all over and over and over again. Do you see that too?
A lot.
So like, what do you tell people in that instance? Like, how do we bridge that gap?
Yeah. I mean, and you've said it, it's very personalized to the actual situation, right? If the dog is at that point where it just doesn't have a sense of like wanting to play anymore, doesn't have the patience, doesn't have the drive to be able to put up with a puppy, then they need to be separated. I agree. And that can be rather tough, right? Especially if your idea was to get a puppy so that you could integrate them before the older one passes, that can be tough.
Not only can it be tough, right? But like, it can also diminish the quality of life for your older dog.
Exactly.
Because the reality of the situation is that like a puppy may be more annoying to an older dog than almost anything else.
Agreed.
Right?
And you're also teaching that puppy bad habits.
Yeah.
One or in one way or another, that puppy's going to be learning bad habits.
Right. The other crazy thing is like, if we put this in human terms, right? Like, grandparents aren't raising children for a reason.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's because like, bro, they're tired.
That's
now.
a really, really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they're tired now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to get into heaven. Like, I'm not worried about
I have my own shit going on, man.
Yeah,
I got time for you.
And seriously, like, and empty nesters that are watching, you guys are going to know this, right? That like, some of us are really close to being that, right? And others of us aren't, but like, I've watched my clients for over 20 years, right? Like when their grown kids like move out of the house, it's like, oh my gosh, so they got like a second lease on life, right? Like whenever you have dogs that are old dogs, right? Like they want to do what they want to do when they want to do it.
Yeah.
Same with empty nesters. Same, like, it's so funny hanging out with my dad, right? Okay. Number one, enjoy every moment of time I have with my old man. He's the best man I've ever known in my life. I look up to him immensely. I'll be lucky to be half the man he is. Like, he's an amazing dude from my perspective.
That's
right?
A good man then.
Yeah. He's an amazing dude from my perspective. Right. I will tell you that dude wants to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it. Sometimes hanging out with him is like, you better catch him. You know what I mean? Like,
I think that's what makes a good man.
Yeah. But you better find him where he is. Otherwise, like, that dude's gone, son. But when he gives you time, it's absolute solid gold. It is the gold standard time. You know what I mean? It's amazing. I remember one time, and I've got pictures of this somewhere, but I remember one time, man, I chased him down. He's an athletic director in Florida, right? And he's been an athletic director for high schools for years, and county athletic director kind of situation, right? And I don't know if he's still at the county level or not, but like, I chased him down at a football game, a high school football game, and he's standing on the sidelines with the headset on. Not, I think, because he was coaching at the time, but because he's an athletic director, he wants to know what's going on in the game. You know what I mean? So like, and he's always been into sports, right? So like, I chase him down. My kid's like 4 years old, scoops him up, puts him in his arm, takes him right out to the sideline.
Very nice.
And like walked right down the sticks with my kid. You know what I mean? Like, it's gold time whenever you can chase him down, But that's the way that I think about old dogs all the time is like, that's their time to give you gold, bro.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Don't disrupt it. Don't diminish.
I agree. So I want to take a little bit of a shift here and kind of focus on something else. This newer dog that you're bringing in.
Yeah.
Dogs experience grief as well, right? The breadth, and we've talked about this on a couple of occasions on the show. The breadth of emotions that these dogs experience are wider than what most people give them credit for. And so when this process does happen, we do bring a new puppy in and the old dog passes away, be ready for that new dog to show you some different behaviors, right? There may be some misbehaving. There may be some not listening. It's a grieving process.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to understand because you are already going to be going through some things. Your patience is going to be less, but that's not an excuse to take it out on the new puppy.
No. And we talked about this a little bit at the start of the show, like off camera, right? But like, if I could have my druthers and just unilaterally make laws, right? Like, number one, the world would be weird. But number two, right? Like, number two, because I'd make laws like everybody needs to eat ice cream on Mondays. Law.
Without pants on.
Yeah, without pants on in the street. But like, number two, this is the second law, right? That ice cream's the first one. Second law is when you lose a dog, you don't go get a dog for 6 months. You need time to grieve that. Your children, a lot of people, man, how many times have I seen this in training, right? Well, my dog died, so we went and got another dog for the kids because the kids were really upset that the dog died. And I want to look at people and go, hear me out, guys. They're supposed to be sad. Sad's okay. You know, sad's healthy.
So we're gonna take a major jump right here, and talk about that. Talk about grief as a human emotion.
Sure,
grief is a very, very healthy thing. Yeah. And so you're correct. If you just try to avoid that, you're not doing yourself a service so much as you're just trying to ignore something you should be feeling.
Yeah. So I grew up going to funerals, like with my great grandma, like watching all her friends die kind of thing. Right. So like, I know that some people are like, oh man, like I didn't go to a funeral until I was in my teens. I didn't go to a funeral until I was in my 20s. I didn't go to a funeral until my parent died. Right. Like my parent never took me to my grandparents' funerals kind of thing. And because like they didn't want me to be exposed to death. And I'm like, so
it's the only thing that's guaranteed in this world.
Yeah. I want to share a few things with you guys. Like death happens to all of us. Right. Marcus Aurelius said, something like, death smiles at us all. You know what I mean? All we can do is smile back. They quoted that in a couple movies along the way. I mean, like, but no kidding, right? Like it happens to every last one of us, and the reality of the situation is that healthy coping skills with death, understanding death, I think is massively important for people. Some of the guys that we served with, ladies that we served with, right? Like who didn't have those coping skills and then were faced with death were very much more wrecked. You know what I mean? Like very much worse off. Right. Because it's like you'd never seen it. You don't understand it. It's kind of like I heard a story about a guy the other day whose dad made fun of him because like he didn't want to hunt anymore after he was in the Marine Corps. And it's like, oh, I get that. You know what I mean? You see enough, It
changes you in one direction or another. Yeah. I personally, I came back from Afghanistan with a completely different idea about death. And it is kind of stuck. I knew I wasn't coming home. I just knew it. Right. And so that kind of changes.
And then here you are.
Right. And God has a plan for me. I'm still here. Or both. Yeah. It's all about balance. All right.
I digress.
Yeah. But
this was supposed to be somber.
One thing that I want to warn people about though, and I hear this equally as much as everything else surrounding this topic. Right. And I think we talked about this last time. I hear it all the time. Oh, I've had a lab. I just had a lab, or I just had a German Shepherd. Now I have a new one. And this one isn't anything like that one.
Yeah, no kidding.
That puppy is not going to behave the way your dog did. Don't expect it to, even if it does get a couple of years to learn.
These are different.
It's not the same dog.
Yeah, these are different. It is not
the same dog.
I like to ask people, are you like your siblings?
Exactly. Yep. No siblings are the same.
House, bro?
Yep.
No, seriously, man. It's really funny. So I was kind of only like half an only child is what I call it, because I had a lot of step siblings growing up. Right. And so like, but most of my experience growing up, I would say in most formation was kind of like only child energy. Right. I'm not going to lie about it. Right. But like being around folks with like lots of sibs. Right. I'm like, oh, you guys are different. Oh, you guys are wicked different. You know what I mean? Like, and no matter how many families I get to know that have like multiple siblings in it, especially like, a pair is one thing. Like, sometimes they come up kind of similar if they're close in age and they're the same gender, but if they're different genders, that's out the window. You know what I mean? Like, but like, no kidding, right? Like the more folks that I know like you that have like a few siblings, you know what I mean? It's 6. Like, yeah, I know, brother. Yeah. And it's like,
we're all completely
totally different folks, all man.
Fucking crazy in our own right, but, but completely different ways.
Yeah, sure. You know what I mean? And and to your point, right? Like that's what we can expect of our dogs.
Yep.
Right. We can expect that our dogs grow up in the house that we provide for them. Right. And like Siege, for instance, grew up in, let me count them real quick. You ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 7 different living situations over time. Right. Because there was a time where she didn't have a house, but lived in a camper with us and all kinds of other crazy stuff as we, grew and, took risks to build business and do stuff. Right. And so like she grew up in like 7 different living situations in like 10 years and take it for what it is. Like that has effects on dogs.
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Like the way that stuff works out, even for a very temporary time. Right. And it sounds like we were very transient. I promise we weren't very transient town to town, but house to house for a little while was a little rough. As we found this place, right. Where we live now. And so, it's kind of one of those things, man, like to your point, like there's no way that a puppy is going to be like your old dog, even if it's the same breed. Right. And man, do we hear that a ton.
A lot.
What else do you hear a bunch?
Surrounding this topic, that's really the major ones. Another little deviation here. One of the things that I have found difficult, both personally and what I've seen from clients.
Yeah.
What do I do with the food bowl? What do I do with the toys? What do I do with all of these things that I don't want to throw these away, right? I don't want to throw them away, but I also don't want them just sitting there staring at me. My parents,
because you spend money on dogs for like habitats and all kinds of stuff,
and it has memories and there's love in there.
Yeah.
My suggestion, and I'd like you to weigh in this. Use that as part of that healing process, right? Find a way to do something with these items and with these objects that turn them meaningful. And I'll give you an example. My first dog I ever trained, Sonny. When I was 16 years old, golden retriever, my parents kept him after I joined the military and moved away. And when he passed away, they had his food bowl and like he'd chase tennis balls literally all day long, like a maniac all day long. Yeah. And so what they did is they took his food bowl and they put all 3 of his old used tennis balls in there and got a little sign that says Sonny's balls and put it up in a spot in the house.
Yeah.
So everybody that walks by it and sees it the first time kind of giggles and then like, oh, that's actually kind of sad, but kind of cute. Something meaningful to take that, something that could be painful and make it healing or healthy or happy.
I'll tell you one of the things I do. My old dog's collars still hang on my collar rack.
I'd love that. Love it and hate it.
Yeah. Same, right? Like, it's one of those things whenever I walk past it and I go, oh yeah. Oh no, you're a great dog. But like my dogs don't wear collars in the house often. You know what I mean? And so like whenever they come in the house, like everybody in my house, it's so funny. I'll leave a collar on a dog because I know I want to pull him later and I'll have to go find it because like one of my family stripped him. You know what I mean? Like, so the collars are only for work and purpose outside of the home. Inside my home, all the collars come off my dogs, right? Because we want them to live how they want to live, right? We don't want any pressure there. We don't want any expectation there, right? And so like my old dog's collars hang on my collar rack often. Yeah.
I've seen a bunch of these and we've completely skipped over something that I cannot believe we haven't mentioned up until now. The idea of the rainbow bridge.
Oh yeah. No, right? I can't deal with it, bro. I can't. I was specifically avoiding the rainbow bridge.
Seen,
bro.
There's a few different places I've seen where they have these like physical rainbow bridges that people make. Right. And
in Lacombe, Louisiana, bro.
Yep. Step St. Timothy Animal Push has a beautiful one, beautiful little area. But going by there and seeing all the collars and tags and stuff like that. And again, that's another beautiful way. Go out there and go out of your way and purposely bring your collar and put it somewhere, something beautiful. But not to avoid the rainbow bridge or to shove it down your throat. Yeah. But I think it's a beautiful idea. I think it's a beautiful idea that when my time is up, that I'm going to walk over this rainbow bridge and all of my dogs are going to be sitting there waiting on me.
All right, dude. I hate you right now, but hear me out. Right. So, my degree's in theology. And for those of you guys who are listening and don't know, like, I worked in the church for years and I have a fairly deep faith. From my perspective anyway. And it's funny. So one of the things that I was doing this summer whenever all these events transpired, right, where, Siege passed and I had some other personal stuff happen, is that I had 2 years ago agreed to be the keynote speaker or the preacher for a youth camp in central Pennsylvania. And so actually the day that my dog died, I had to preach that day, right? Like it was, or speak that day. Right. So, it was interesting, man. I said, hey, look, I'm not going to make this about me, but I need you guys to know where I am, like physically, emotionally, spiritually, so that like, hey, if I say something, and I always do this, like at the beginning of some of the talks that I give, if I do something or say something wrong, man, I promise you it was not intentional. And like, if there's something that I do that is offensive or, discourteous in any way, please just come talk to me about it. And like, we'll work it out, because I can guarantee you that like, I love you. Right. Like, so, I got to this place where, like we had to do this thing, and I said this thing, and one of the pastors that was there, is a fairly buttoned up guy. Right. And late that evening, he and I got talking in this, commercial kitchen that feeds camp. Right. And this camp is like, high school and college age kids. It's the Trinity Youth Conference. It's like a really interesting engagement for, like Christian kids. Very, very, if I put it in scope this way, like in political culture today, it would be incredibly left leaning, right? Very, very progressive, Presbyterian kind of oriented, very, very cool people. Right. And I got talking with this guy about, yeah, man, like my dog died today and that sucked. Right. It sucked because I couldn't be there. It sucked because I couldn't be there for my family. But I know that like the universe and God are working for me in this place. Mm-hmm. And like, here's where I probably needed to be. Right. I was able to walk out of the news that my dog was dying and walk into a prayer circle. And that's kind of cool. Right. For people who are spiritually oriented. And we're going to probably start delving into this more as we walk through, because like we both are in different ways. And so, like as I walked into this place, right, like where like I was dealing with grief and actively, right, like, hey, God, universe, whatever you want to call force, right, like, I don't care what you call God, yep. Right, like, hey, look, I'm going to need some help here for a little while and guidance, wisdom, because I'm not going to be thinking straight, right. As I walked into that preaching that night, I said the same thing, and as I was having this conversation with this guy, I said, man, like, my hope is that God is real and that God is just. And I walk into your point to a pack of dogs one day.
That's exactly what I believe.
And this massively educated, right? Like from a like pastor sense, right? Like, big time educated, like massively scholarly, super kind of, I don't want to call him uptight, but he's buttoned up for sure. Right. And he's a great dude. Like the more I get to know that guy, the more I'm like, I get why you've been at your church like 30 years. You know what I mean? But he looks at me and he smiles and he goes, oh no, they're family. God instituted family on purpose. Mm-hmm. Right. I think that he goes, I'm not necessarily sure, but like, I think that there's a lot of evidence that would lead to the idea that like, you're going to see your dog.
I would agree wholeheartedly. I remember I grew up Catholic, right? And am not Catholic anymore, but I'm more spiritually minded.
Look, man, I preached St. Francis during that week. Let's go.
But I remember a very passionate conversation in the church about dogs and whether or not they go to heaven. I can't believe in a heaven. I can't believe in a God. I can't believe in a universe that would take these creatures after knowing what I know about them and seeing them in their eyes and seeing what's behind their eyes. It's not just lights out. No, right. It's not that simple. It is not that simple.
Did you see the press release in the last couple of days where scientists, through the use of AI, have cracked the code, on whale language?
So I know a little bit about whale language. I haven't seen that one. Right. I know. Go ahead.
So here's where I'm at, right? Is like crack the code, right? Through the use of AI and have now had conversations.
Oh, that's cool.
With whales, right? And some of the things that they're saying are a little disconcerting.
Yeah. But stop fucking with our oceans.
More than that. But like, the reality is, and don't get me wrong, that gets a little tinfoil hatty, but like it's scientific research that's happening now that's groundbreaking.
That's amazing.
Right? Unbelievable. Right. And we've known that things like bottlenose dolphins have like 35 different dialects and have, tribal culture in the ocean and all kinds of things. And for those of you who didn't know that, like, and you want more information on that, please just hit us up in the comments, and like I will connect you with those research points and those people so that you guys can like, really talk about that a little bit, because like that's a really important thing I think that's happening. Right. So this thing about, whales and whether or not they have sentience, right? What's behind the eyes, right? I think is massively important. And like, there's no one who's ever lived with a dog long term that has any empathy or compassion in their soul that can look at a dog and think to themselves, no one's home, right? Yeah. Like the lights are definitely on. Someone's definitely home. And like my hope as a believer in general large religion and spirituality, right? Because like I'm a little bit of a universalist. I kind of mix beliefs after all my education. And I hope this, man, I hope that I get to come back as like one of our dogs, right? They get to have all the fun, right? Like I think that there's a soul in there the same way there's a soul in me. There's a presence that is felt. Whenever certain dogs walk in the room, it's like, man, I feel them the same way that I feel people. The same way that cat people talk about cats, right? Where like a cat walks in the room and you're like, oh man, like that dude's here, One of my trainers earlier this year lost a cat in a very similar way to the way that we lost Siege, right? Like with a liver cancer that was undetectable and very fast acting, right? I mean, like in a period of weeks, lost this cat and there was nothing anybody could do about it. But like, I'm going to tell you as a dog guy, when that cat walked in, I was like, yo, somebody's here.
Nope.
You know what I mean? Somebody's here. Like that dude was, he was maybe my favorite cat of my life.
So we're walking into quote unquote weird territory here, right? Consciousness and souls and Holy Spirits or spirit,
I'm in here all like things. Weepy. Yeah.
I think it would be very childish almost or ignorant of us to be able to say, well, souls are designated only for humans. God only gave souls or spirits to humans. I don't think that's accurate. I think God is in everything and everyone, right? And I think that soul or the spirit or that energy, whatever it is in everything around us in different degrees. You've met what you just said about dogs, right? Cats, same thing. Yeah. You've met humans that way as well, where a human walks into a room and it's like, whoa, that guy's got something.
That guy came in with like a host of things. That shit came in like,
and so there's different levels of this thing, right? Sidney Michael, you can look in Sidney Michael's eyes and be like, oh, that dog's thinking. He might be an asshole,
but
there's something going on behind those eyes, right? Yeah. Whereas you can meet some dogs and it's just like, oh, you just want to play. You just want to hang out. And there's different levels.
You're kind of vapid. You're kind of like that girl in high school that wouldn't leave me alone. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Different levels.
But that happens.
But yeah, I mean, I think the idea that we get to see them again, in a different setting, different time, place, experience. I think it's helpful to some people.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very, very real possibility.
So from a 30,000 foot theological perspective, right? Like, so, like I didn't go to seminary, right? I actually did an undergrad in religion and theology, right? So like understanding, like what's, like what all these different faith groups do, is kind of like the focus of my degree major. And like from a 30,000 foot view, I would say this, like, there's been a lot of, conflict over the years, like Thomas Aquinas is one of the things that comes to mind whenever I think about the implantation of the soul, right? Because like Thomas Aquinas said this thing where he's like, bro, Males get implanted, and I'm going to make up some days here, and like some scholars are going to come in these comments and jack me up, but like, the concept is here, right? Thomas Aquinas said, hey, listen, like males get the implantation of the soul at day 7, right? But females get the implantation of the soul at the day 23, right? And it's like, dude, you're really working on the patriarchy here, right? Like, help me out for like 3 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, men aren't better than women, like souls happen. One of the most amazing books that Heather's actually put me onto, and you can throw in on this if you like, because this would be really cool, is the sentience of plants. Right.
I've been seeing a lot about that, actually.
So dude, like, hear me out.
The Light Eaters.
Yeah. Light Eaters. So fantastic book. Like, take it for what it is. I don't read much, but my wife talks a lot. Right.
Well, the science that you were talking about with the whales, there's a lot of science coming out about the consciousness and the sentience of plants. Yeah.
What I mean by that specifically is that we have substantive conversation. Right. And so like, she reads a lot and wants to talk about the things that she's encountered. Right. And I'm here for it because, I really like her bookishness. Right. Like, it is what it is. Right. So, but in this book, they go deeply into the idea that plants communicate via pheromones all the time. They make room for each other. Like
they share resources.
They compete for resources and share resources based on who needs what. Right. So like, plants, all the plants in the forest, this is wild. All the plants in the forest live in a community.
It's like Avatar.
It is. It really is.
It really is. Yeah. Because they do a lot of the communication through the mycelial network.
So the mycelial network. Yeah, absolutely.
The mycelial network. Dude, that's so cool.
It's amazing.
Right?
It's,
like that's some Paul Stamets stuff, right? Like we're not big enough to ever have Paul Stamets on this show, but like, oh my God, I would
fangirl out.
Are you kidding me? I would fall over if Paul Stamets walked in my house. Like Paul, if you ever see this, hear this, watch this, like, bro, if you want to hang out anytime,
seriously,
dude,
you got to wear the hat and the scarf.
You got to wear the hat, bro. You got to wear the hat. You got to wear it. Did you call it hot? I'm here for you, bro.
The hat and the scarf.
That's how I know you're Air Force.
He's already been fangirled by Star Trek.
Look, you guys got nothing. Don't hate on me because I like scarves. Dude, I'm fancy.
That's not a joke. Dude, I like scarves too. But like that's not a joke. Cool. Is that no kidding? Like Paul Stamets had a character named after him in Star Trek. Right.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Who also built like a way to travel via the mycelial network.
That's cool.
The universe. Right. So it's like, dude, Paul Stamets just crushing it.
That's
right?
Cool.
Like absolutely crushing it.
All right.
Wait. Sorry. Because that book was, so the Light Eaters, I just finished The Serviceberry by Robin Wall Kimmerer, who wrote Breeding Sweetgrass. And she also talks about the ecology of like different forests. And as they come up and like the weeds with their rapid growth being the first thing that comes up. But by the time it becomes a forest, it's all collaborative and it's all like community, people, like plants making room for each other so that everybody grows together.
I think humans have a whole lot to learn from plants.
A lot,
based on that.
And as it turns out, I think we got a whole lot to learn from dogs too.
Yes, we do.
Their constant grace, their constant forgiveness, their constant love, right? The
joy,
man, the sustainability of the dog as a being, right, is such a positive experience, right? I can't tell you the number of dogs that we pulled out of shelters in wild situations and all kinds of crazy, like, we hear stories about, that dude threw gasoline on a dog and, like did horrible things. Right.
Yep.
And the dog's still like, bro, I'm just happy to be here.
Just happy to be here.
I'm happy to be here.
Resilient.
You know what I mean? Yep. And so like when we look at how dogs have presence, right? It's the same way that like some of our brothers and sisters in arms who, like, one of these guys, man, like I was watching a thing, a few years ago, and I forget this gentleman's name, and I'm remiss to even mention it because I don't know his name, but he's a Medal of Honor recipient, and dude's missing like both his legs and an arm, and he's like, bro, I'm just happy to be here, and I'm like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I could do that, and he's like, no, you understand? Like, I see the sun come up every day.
Mm-hmm.
I have experiences. Like, I'm loved by people around me. I'm really happy, really grateful to be here. And I think that's what dogs bring to the table over and over again. And the hard part is like people who go, I don't know what's going on with this. I go, man, I understand, right? It's hard to, depending on how you were raised and what religion you were raised and what theological concepts you were raised, because everybody's raised in some, right? Even if you're an avowed atheist, right? Like that's
still a belief.
That's a faith structure, right? That I'm like, dude, you're crushing it. You know what I mean? Like, feel free. You know what I mean? But like the reality, it's kind of like people who are like, oh, I have all the faith in evolution. And I'm like, I love that for you. You have as much faith as I do in Jesus. Anyway, but my point is this, right? Is like at the end of the day, right? Like when we look at the dog themselves, right? Like there's definitely somebody going on there. You know what I mean? For sure.
Absolutely.
To come back to that point, like that they're present, and even people who like aren't dog people. Like this is my favorite. Like one of the guys in my life that just wasn't really a dog person, right? Bit by a couple dogs, ran from dogs, like just not a big dog guy, right? Whenever I got him around my dogs, he was like, actually, your dogs are kind of cool, bro. And I'm like, yeah. And then he wanted a dog for himself and his parents wouldn't let him have one. This was high school. It's not a big deal, right? But like the reality of the situation, that dog ended up living with us anyway, right? But it was one of those deals where like it took the experience of being around it to understand it. And so that's the other thing that I would say is like, whenever you have an understanding of what dogs are, who they are, what's going on there, right? It's natural that it's going to take some time to get over that.
Absolutely.
The same way that in not in the same weight, I don't think that we give, and maybe to our own benefit, not in the same weight that we give human life and soul, right?
Thank goodness, I think.
Right. Because like they don't live as long as us, man.
Right.
And like, dude, have I said it one time? I'll say it a million times, right? Like if you're like in any way familiar with like the idea of the golden compass and the way that they walk around with animals for their life because it's the inhabitation of their soul, right? Like I'm like, dude, I wish I could have one dog that knew me so deeply and so intrinsically that he could walk around with me my whole life, right? And he would live as long as I did and we would get old together and everything would be cool, right? He, she, I don't care. Right. But like the reality of the situation is that we don't have that. And so how do we then like move on? So that's kind of the next question is like, Chris, what do you do to move on? Like, how do you guide people forward in moving on from a dog loss?
See, and I'm going to go a completely different way than you're thinking. I think it's very personal to everyone.
Yeah.
Right. I think your relationship with that dog was your relationship. And you're going to have to find your own way to be able to move on in the same way that when we lose a parent or if God forbid we lose a child, right? You have to be able to find a way to move on. But I think the important question is, or the important thing is that you do, and that you don't get stuck in that grief. We're not meant to be stuck in grief and shame and fear and these dense, deep, dark emotions. Those are there to be experienced. Don't get stuck in them is what I would say.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair advice, man. I like that. I like that advice. Like don't get stuck there. Don't get lost there. Experience
it. Don't avoid it, but don't get stuck.
There's a fantastic movie that came out, I don't know, probably mid 90s that has Robin Williams in it. It's called What Dreams May Come. Cuba Gooding Jr. is also in this movie, right? For those of you at home who are watching this and thinking, oh my God, what are these guys talking about now? Like that's what I thought this was about dog training, but like it is, right? Because like how we deal with loss, even of a trusted companion is here. But in What Dreams May Come, right? Like there's this idea of being stuck in a place where you can't see your way out. Right. And man, oh man, I think that's hell. Right. And that's kind of what the movie kind of leads you to is like this place where you're so centric on that idea that you can't leave it,
being in the tunnel.
Yeah. Just getting stuck there.
But, and I want to jump on something you said. Yeah. What does this have to do with dog training? I kind of learned something, but something came to the surface this week when I was filming with Teresa, one of my SkillBridge interns. Right? And
dude, look, your video has been fire, by the way.
Thank you.
I've been liking them.
I'm excited for you to see the ones this week. We talked this week about three things: love, trust, and respect. Right. And what that means to dogs. And I'd love to have a conversation on here about that and later on. Right. It's essential.
Bro,
But anyway, what we ended up discussing was what dog training is, right? And what dog training means. Dog training isn't just about teaching your dog to listen to you. There's a whole lot more. And if you're doing it the right way, you're going to teach this dog how to live a better life while that dog teaches you how to live a better life. And so everything we're talking about is not absent of or side skirting dog training. All of this is involved and all of this is related to dogs and to dog training. Now, that being said, I want to caveat and kind of shift a little more. When do we know it's time? Right? When do we know it's time to pull the trigger? Terrible way to say that. But when do we know it's time to call the vet and say, hey, it's time.
Oh man.
And before we even jump into that question, I want to go ahead and give a shout out here to veterinarians, right? And these professionals that have to help make that decision, right? You don't call your dog trainer and ask if it's time to go down. You call your veterinarian, right? You call your veterinarian and they need to be able to guide you through this process and say, okay, yes, this is what I'm seeing. I think it's time that you start making some arrangements. And so I want to give out a shout out to some of the vets, one in particular who just lost her dog this week, Brittany. Thinking about you. Sorry about Winston.
Sorry.
Hope you're watching
Winston.
this.
Sorry, Brittany. Man.
But back to the question.
Heartbreaking.
Right? How do we know when it's time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually have criteria around that. I really do. And I teach every trainer that I have the same criteria, right? So it makes it easier for me, right? But like some places, right? Like I would even look back at like a good solid Ted Lasso quote for this, right? If you know Ted Lasso, right? Like it's on Apple TV, go watch it. You won't be upset. Okay. Like it came out in 2020. It's the thing that we needed in 2020 to give us like hope back in humanity, like really, 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 really good. Right. But like, like Ted Lasso said this thing about knowing what's right at some point where he goes, you let your gut figure that out, but on the way down, you check in with your heart and make sure it jives with both.
Ooh,
right. Like really, really, really solid. Right. Yep. But when that doesn't work, right? Like whenever you're still like, but I don't know, right? Because you're in grief, right? The basis of bioethics, right? I think is a helpful criteria, right? So like bioethics is a scientific discipline that actually has almost a religious underpinning at its very core, right? I took a couple of these classes in college and man, did I love this. Like this was like my jam, right? Like I'm like, dude, whenever I get old and I can't do anything for myself anymore and things are rough and like, I'm ready to go home. Like I want physician assisted suicide as an option. I'm not saying that like I want to kill myself one day, but what I'm saying is I want to spare myself from suffering that I cannot turn off.
That you can't avoid.
Yeah. Right. I want to spare my family from watching me turn into somebody I'm not. You know what I mean? Because like we've all had those experiences in life, right? So the basis of bioethics for me, and not just for me, but like, it's what I use, is 4 criteria, in this structure called the Wesleyan quadrilateral, right? Big word, right? And it takes 4 criteria, reason, experience, tradition, and moral authority, right? So like what you might call scripture, and it brings it across in a way that is massively, massively helpful so that we can kind of understand, those things and how to deal with them, right? So reasonability, right? Like is how we think about a thing. So like, hey, I want to make sure that this is logical and that I'm making a logically informed decision here because like, I don't want to do anything dumb. Right. And then, like traditionally, like what have people done in this situation? How is this situation resolved traditionally
and culturally?
Right. Mm-hmm. Like, how do I look at that? Yeah. Traditionally, culturally, same good ideas, right? Like traditionally and culturally, like how do these things work out? Right. Experientially, what's my experience of this? Like whenever I've seen other people, places, things in a similar situation. Like, what's my experience of it, right? And then the last one is technically scripture, right? But like, if you're not a person of a book, what I would say is, morally, right? Like, how does this sit with you, right? Like, what is your moral obligation to the situation, right? And so like, the other day, for instance, right? Like, and this is how this happened with Siege, right? So Siege was my little bulldog, and I was talking to my wife, and she goes, "Hey man, like, she's not looking great." And she turned up her nose at food last night. And I went, "Oh, that's bad. That dog's been really, really sick and always eating." Right. So she turned up her nose at food. That's like a really bad sign for a 10-year-old dog, right? 10-year-old dog turns up her nose at food. Bad idea. Especially whenever she's been like an absolute hammer on food for 10 years, right? Like, never missed a meal, no matter what surgery, no matter what weirdness, you know what I mean? Like, never missed a meal, right? And so I'm like, oh, that's real bad, right? And I said, okay, so like, that's not good, right? Like, tell me more. Like, what else is going on? Well, it was this and it was that and it was the next thing, right? And I'm like, well, and I looked at her, because I happened to be standing in front of her at the time. I looked at her and I said, hey, we were in Pennsylvania at the time. We're in Louisiana today, right? I said, this is probably her last trip to the mountains. I bet. Right. As it turns out, like, that night she ended up passing. Right. But like, with some help from a vet. So the vet calls me, right, from the office. Right. And he goes, "Hey, Mr. Stewart, like, I've got some bad news." Right? And I'm like, I expected bad news. Right. Like, at this point, like, I'm like, yeah, this is going to happen. And she goes, "Hey, your dog has a metastatic form of liver cancer that would have been largely undetectable by our instrumentation, and is probably less than 3 months old." Right. And I went, oh, that makes sense. Because like, for the last 3 months, man, she's been a little clingy. For the last 3 months, she's been hanging out a little extra. She crawled in your lap. Right. Like, that wasn't who that dog was before that. Right. And so like, she's saying goodbye. Yep. Like, for months. Right. And knew it, I think, right. Knew she was sick and still hit the spring pole and still played with my other dogs and still did stuff. You know what I mean? Like, still did all the things. Right. But like, knew that like, this was probably the last time. Right. And so like, as I walked through that metric really quick in my head, right, like, reasonability, right, like, she's got metastatic form of liver cancer that has had a nodule rupture and she's bleeding internally. Bad, right? Like, reasonability, like, that's not sustainable. Like, either there's surgery here or it's bad, right? Traditionally, what happens in these situations, I've been a dog trainer for a very, very long time, right? And I know that like, these situations don't resolve very well often. Right. And so I'm like, you know what? That's not good. Right. Experientially, like, because I've been a dog trainer so long, right? Like, there are lots and lots and lots of places in which I'm like, I've seen this and it's bad. Right. Like, in, I don't know, like maybe 2009, 2010, somewhere in there, like, my mom lost a dog of kind of the same idea, like, 7 years old, right? Liver cancer, it was bad, right? And I'm like, oh, that sucks, right? That's really young for that situation, right? And I'm like, oh, it sucks. And then, like, what's my obligation to my dog, right? This is where things get weird.
That's tough,
right? This is where things get weird, because there are two different philosophies at end of life, right? There's palliatives, which make life comfortable until, like, it comes to its more natural end. And then there's like, like, eliminating all that entirely and going, you know what, man, like, yes, I think that God gets a chance to give us even the free will, to choose when we go. Right. And so like, the doctor said to me, "Hey, this is what's going on." Right. She's got a metastatic form of liver cancer and one of the nodules on her liver has ruptured and she's bleeding internally. Right. And my only response, having run through that in my head in like, I don't know, 3 seconds, because it's how we even make decisions at our company, right? Like, all the things, having run through that in 3 seconds, I just, spoke into the phone and said, "Hey, listen, hey doc, it's okay. Can you help my friend go home today?" Right. And doctor, I could hear her voice break on the other end of the phone, right? Great clinic in State College, Pennsylvania. But I heard her voice crack on the other end of the phone. She was like, yeah, I can do that, you know? And I'm like, I appreciate you. Please be there for my family, you know? Because I can't be there. Like, I'm too far away. I can't get there, right? And it was hard, you know? But the reality is when we talk about the decision-making criteria, it's a hard criteria to suss out, right? You know, check in with your heart on the way down to your gut, I think is just as valid as reason, experience, tradition, and scripture. You know, that's my answer, bro.
Yep. And I think that's great. I think that's a very solid answer. I think my answer would be it's very personal, just like everything else. I think it's very subjective. I think it's very personal to you. One of the things I would be very careful of is dogs have an extremely high pain tolerance, right? Just like you were saying, Siege will go out there and jump and do all these things. That does not mean she's not in pain.
Well,
right?
Their will to live.
Right. And so this idea, and I watched my sister go through this with her Great Dane that passed earlier this year. And I'm not saying she's wrong by any means.
Sure.
So I want to throw that out there. They did a great job. But her Great Dane lived to be 13 years old. I'm not making that up. And they had her the entire time. There's going to be a vet. There's going to be a vet listening to this and be like, God, that's bullshit. 13 years old. Promise you.
Yeah.
And so the last probably year was kind of up and down. Right. And one of the things, like, he started losing his bowel movements inside the house and and doing things that just are way outside of his behavior. But then, like, everybody would come over and swim and he'd be like a puppy again. And it's like, well, look, I don't want to cancel this, right? I don't want to stop him from experiencing these good days. But at the same time, I don't see a benefit in all out suffering so that you get a little more time with your dog.
100%.
Right. And so to me, it boils down to quality versus quantity.
Yeah.
And get the quantity that you can get, but don't sacrifice quality.
100%. Right. Like I've also said, I'm famous in my company for saying, man, whenever, especially when it came to Siege, right? I hope she goes out with her boots on. I hope she dies on that spring pole. You know what I mean? And in many ways, in her own way, she did, even in this moment, right? Where, like, right up until like the last 18 hours of her life. And it really came down to 18 hours. She was still playing with the kids. She was still running around. She was still doing the things because, like, that's who she was. Right. And we got that gift, you know what I mean? Like, of that time. Right. So, you know, don't be selfish and don't prolong suffering on the backside of your need for or your desire for avoiding grief, right? But also, like, let those dogs live, man, to what they can live to. You know what I mean? There's
definitely a balance there, and again, it's very personal.
Let them get their last zoomies out. You know what I mean? Like, let them get it before they go home. And I do think of it like that, Rainbow Ridge style and all, right? Like, I think about it like letting them go home. You know. I think we all, regardless of our religious affiliation, whether you're a Jesus dude or you're, some other thing, right? You know what I mean? And dude, I could go through them all, but, like, hear me out. Like, you know, I don't want to be offensive to anybody. But, you know, regardless of your religious affiliation, I think that there's a place in which we all go when we're gone. I have a hard time believing that, especially here, pushing up on my 44th year, right? Like, you know, I have a hard time believing that this amount of time is all we get in existence. You know what I mean? If this is true, if this is all the time we get in existence, I'm bummed. You know what I mean? I can't believe that. I think that we have afterlife. I think that we have something different. I think that, that which inhabits a soul, right? Like, also has it, right? And there are things that creep and crawl on our earth that I'm not sold on, right? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think flies have a soul, for instance, like house flies. I don't see it there. Right. You know what I mean? If they do, and I'm smashing somebody, man, I'm real sorry. And I hope that karma.
That was your journey.
Yeah. I hope that, I hope that karma doesn't eat me on the backside. Right. Like I really do. I hope that karma doesn't eat me on the backside. But the reality is that I think that we all go somewhere when we pass, from this plane to the next. I think that most of the world's religions would absolutely agree with me. Whether it's Buddhism or, like Jainism, Taoism, or the Abrahamic phase, whether it's Judaism, Islam, or Christianity, all these ideas have an afterlife associated with them. Zoroastrianism being the prime dualistic religion in the world, all those things, right? Like, whenever we look at all this stuff, I think, the human experience is such that we look at it and go, yeah, no, there's something going on here. So guys, hear me say this, right? Like, as we wrap this up, because we've got to wrap this up, right? Like this has been a little bit of we're both wearing black today. Chris came over in one of my shirts in black because he doesn't wear black shirts, but he was like, bro, for Siege, man, like, we're going to mourn this today. Right. In some ways, and in other ways, we're going to celebrate it, because what a great dog. Come on, years worth of episodes. Right.
So, yeah. What an amazing
ride, dude. Like we've had a blessing here. Right. And
my favorite thing to do.
Dude, me too. Like sit here and talk about dog training with my friend. Are you kidding me? Get out of here. You know what I mean? So, but as we walk through this, top three, there's a couple other things in there, right? Like we do drink a little bit. We do some other things. Let's not talk about those here. But as we wrap up today, guys, there's a couple of things that, if you'll allow me, I will do this way and say, I'll challenge you to think of this. I'll challenge you to think of what's important to you in your dog's journey, right? And then I'll also ask you to give a little grace in a place where you go, and I'm allowed to be sad. I'm allowed to have feelings for as long as those feelings take to kind of manifest and process. I think all those things are really, really, really important for people, and the more psychology that we delve into in the humanscape, the more we realize how important grief is for us. So please don't just avoid it. Right. But run into it in a way that's healthy and understanding and hopeful.
And if you need help, ask for help. Friend, therapist, doesn't matter.
All the help.
If you need help, ask for help. That's what we're here for.
Hit us in the comments.
We're like the mycelium.
Let's go. Call back to Stamets. I'm here for it. All right, guys.
To Siege.
To Siege.
To all the good dogs out there. To Winston.
To
all the good dogs out there that we have lost. We love them and they love us, and we will see them again, and we will see you again next year.
Next time, bro. Hey, listen, like I got a pack of dogs, man. I don't know where you're at, but I'm packed out.
Ooh.
Packed out, bro.
It's going to be like, what's that? What's the name of that movie where they gangs meet up and instead of fighting, they dance? I'm going to walk up and I'm going to have like 80 dogs behind me. You're going to walk up with like 90 dogs behind you. And we're just going to break dance.
Yep. I'm here for it. All right. Sounds good, dude. Hey guys, listen, thanks for hanging out with us today for Whiskey and Wolves. And join us in our new season as, we walk into the next portions of what we're doing.
Yeah. We're going to have a new look. We're going to have a neon sign.
There's a good portion that we might have a neon sign. I'm really excited about it. So
if you're only listening to us and not watching us, you're missing out because of the neon signs and because of how beautiful we are. But
we are kind of pretty.
I love you.
Cheers, brother. I love you too. Have a good one.
Love you,
Thanks,
Heather.
Guys.
Love y'all too.
See you next time on Whiskey and Wolves. Oh, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. Do that. All right. Now I'm going to drink.